Today's episode is on a topic that's hard for me to get into. I, as well as many of you watching this, have lost someone to suicide or have struggled with it. And with the recent passing of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, I didn't want to give the impression of wanting to capitalize on their passings. The complexity of what is behind someone taking his or her own life is often looked at as a taboo subject. But these recent events have given me a reminder of how our culture likens the silence of much dialogue pertaining to suicidal thoughts and behavior. People don't want to be kicked out of their jobs, kicked out of going to college, or being kicked out of the military if they ask for any help. And the entertainment industry is no different. Such talk right away makes you a liability, and once you are viewed as a liability, no one wants anything to do with you ever again. They can't push you away fast enough. And there is a real influence by celebrity suicide, especially due to the way the details can be sensationalized, adding to the way people identify with that person. One example, after the death of Robin Williams, a 10% rise in deaths, especially among middle-aged men, occurred using the method that was told in the public. And in my case, Williams had a direct effect on me because of my working with him many years ago and the connection I still hold today. I'm going to get into the bad PR problem the topic of suicide has, and how the culture of hypocrisy in Hollywood feeds the vultures waiting for anyone somewhat famous dying so that they can glorify, spit on, and in many cases profit from it. All of that and a challenge for the new Hollywood generation coming up. Welcome to Hollywood Unapologetic. My name is Orlando Delbert. I want to speak a little bit about filmmaking essentials, sensationalizing celebrity suicide, culture of hypocrisy in Hollywood, suicide's PR problem, and a new Hollywood generation. I should mention before we get into it, I first wrote about some of what we're about to touch upon, success in filmmaking in life and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation when I was writing Pollyanna's Tear-Soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, Survival Guide Against the Cynicism and the Hypocritical. We want to know your questions, comments, and suggestions you may have. Please write them below, leave a thumbs up if you like what you see. Make sure you click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production? Start here. Be sure to watch all of the way through. We're going to speak about a lot of things as part of being prepared. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. You ready? Today's episode is on a topic that's hard for me to get into, and I, as well as many of you watching this, has lost someone to suicide and has struggled with it. I didn't want to give the impression I wanted to capitalize on the passing of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade recently, but this is an important enough topic that needs to be spoken more about. After the recent passing of Anthony Bourdain a few weeks ago, I noticed a sudden increase on social media of friends and friends of friends fighting with suicidal thoughts. And up until seeing all of this, I didn't give suicide much thought after the passing of a friend's brother years ago. Since I struggle with depression since my heart attack and stroke years ago, I do my best to keep away as much negativity out of my own life as I can. But I do admit, as my mental faculties diminish and more of my memories are lost, all thanks to the growing aftermath of the stroke, depression does get heavier and heavier. As many of you know, just being in the entertainment world, there sure is a lot of negativity and toxicity around us as a byproduct of the way the system is set up. And that was a large part of what motivated me to write my books and start this web series, all in the hopes to help others circumvent some of the toxic nature of our industry and hopefully have fuller, more balanced lives. But these recent events have given me a reminder of how our culture likens the silence of much dialogue pertaining to suicidal thoughts and behavior. People don't want to be kicked out of their jobs, kicked out of going to college, being kicked out of the military if they ask for any help. And the entertainment industry is no different. Such talk right away makes you a liability, and once you are viewed as a liability, no one wants anything to do with you ever again. They can't push you away fast enough. But as anyone who knows who subscribes to this channel and those who know me personally, know I couldn't care less how I am perceived by the power hungry and the negativity mongers in this business of show. Giving forward, even in a small way, is far more important than anything else. And saying this, I think the topic of experiences with suicidality needs to be narratives more openly discussed about. I don't wish to get into statistics because the struggles and the resilience needed to get past it is just not included. I mean, how can they be? Every person has their own struggle and their idiosyncrasies that can never be summed up in just a number or any group of people. It's far more individualistic than being on a list of racial and religious backgrounds, sexual orientations and gender presentations, or any kind of socioeconomic and professional backgrounds. Each person affected has different upbringings with different life experiences and have fallen victim to a variety of traumatic life experiences. And I think in the United States in particular, too much focus has been on looking for a systemic set of mental health issues instead of looking at it as a complex issue about people in a human condition. Does my speaking about how people don't want to be kicked out of their jobs, kicked out of going to college, or being kicked out of the military if they ask for any help make any sense? Or how the entertainment industry labels you as a liability also when you ask for help? I mean, does that make sense? If it does, write down and hashtag New Hollywood Generation in the comments below. That's New Hollywood Generation. I know it's a heavy topic, but I still will be getting more into the stigma our society and our industry holds, what we can do as part of suicide prevention. With other topics that have been considered taboo, people who speak out about them have historically been stigmatized. Even today in some parts of the world, you and those close to you can be killed if you don't fit the ethos of the particular reigning regime of the moment and what they believe in. And what just came to mind were the videos of gay men being thrown off of buildings to their death by ISIS because of their sexual preferences. And here in the United States, the issue of suicide has a real public relations problem. And in saying this, I have a challenge for you. My challenge to you is I want you to think about those close to you who have been affected by suicide in some way. Now, of course, this is a challenge that may not be something that some of you may want to get into, and that's okay. But please hear me out. This topic is part of a much bigger problem. Our society has a way of shutting out conversations that don't fit into their lives at the moment. That narrow mindfulness to only look at what is directly in front of them keeps people disengaged and disinterested in big picture issues that have residual effects on all of us, that shapes the very fabric of any community and country for that matter. But the reality is the suicide rates have been rising steadily since 1999. How can we as a people see a rise in suicide prevention if the stigma of suicide itself continues to rise as well? I ask for those who can share your stories with others. Those content creators of the New Hollywood Generation have a unique position where we can create a platform for people to talk about their experiences. Because until you and I are able to stand up and share our experiences and be willing to actively listen to those who need to be heard, the validation needed is lost. The road away from desperation and isolation is lost. Even if the challenge is not something you may want to be part of, I still ask that you check in with others in your lives that may need someone to connect with. Find out about local community support groups and find out about local and national suicide crisis resources and save them in your mobile phone. And if you can, donate to organizations working to prevent suicide. Fight against suicide begins with each and every one of us having the willingness to speak to those close to us that may be in peril. Years ago, a dear friend to me called my voicemail and was urgently needing some intervention. She was a vet who served in the military during a conflict, had firearms at home, and her life was spiraling out of control and she had no support group. Her call prompted me to get local law enforcement to get to her, and I'm proud to say she's still here today. And more recently, after the death of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, half a dozen of my close friends were in similar situations with those close to them. But there is a very real influence by celebrity suicide, especially due to the way the details can be sensationalized, adding to the way people identify with that person. One example, after the death of Robin Williams, a 10% rise in deaths, especially among middle-aged men, occurred using the method that was told to the public. In my case, Williams had a direct effect on me because of my time working with him many years ago, and that connection I still hold today. I should also mention another part of sensationalizing of celebrities during these times is important to take it all with a grain of salt, no matter what you read online on the blogs or see on the entertainment news shows. All too often, those reporting are not entirely getting their hands dirty in the Hollywood trenches at the levels of what many of us spend most of our careers at, and many others reporting aren't even in the industry at all, but are quick to attack others. There is a culture and hypocrisy of Hollywood that's just not right. There is a duality. You are expected to age gracefully, then disappear into the night. However, even when you leave the public eye by either walking away from the industry or by your own demise, the vultures are lurking nearby, waiting. It's disgusting, the vultures that circle Hollywood for the dead so they can glorify it, spit on it, get off on it, whatever from it, in many cases profit from it. And then they attack family members and friends to hopefully continue the media buzz. It sickens me. It just never seems to end. It just pisses me off. I have to ask, please do what you can to reach out to others, get trained in crisis intervention, help the fight to continue federal funding for suicide research, and if you can, volunteer for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, crisis text line, or your local crisis center. And thank you. One more thing. As part of the New Hollywood Generation, others just like you are asking the same questions of themselves. You are not alone. We're all in it together. And I know today's topic is a bit heavy, but I ask please subscribe and click on the bell to know when we have more for you. And more episodes are coming. Please share with someone you know who may find what we spoke about today beneficial. Like if you like what you saw, dislike if you don't. Let us hear from you. Are you going to use what we discussed today? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. And please consider what I offer you today and consider what your role is as a new generation of content creators. Feel free to take advantage of other members in the new Hollywood generation community. We're all here to grow together and to help one another. We have a strong group on Twitter. Come join the new Hollywood generation and meet some fellow filmmakers and content creators. Ready for the challenge? If you're looking for filmmaking for beginners, Filmmaking 101, and for some filmmaking tips on how to want to be a filmmaker, make sure to click on the subscribe button. Click that bell so you don't miss anything. Looking for how to filmmaking essentials? Be sure to check out the videos in the playlist. New to film production? Start here. Think of this channel as a film crash course or filmmaking crash course and an introduction to filmmaking entrepreneurship to build the skills needed well beyond just how to succeed Hollywood and beyond whatever discussion other how-to film school, how-to indie filmmaking, in general, how to film industry channels don't talk about. The whys you truly need to know to help you grow as a thought leader in life, the entertainment industry, and how it applies as part of the new Hollywood generation is in this video series and in the Pollyanna's tear-soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical series of books. Links below. Remember, preparation is the key to you and your project's success. Ready?